Okay, Patrice, I've just invited you.
Can you hear me now?
Ah, there you are. We have success. Awesome.
Yay! Sorry about that.
Well, you know what? We've had a lot of people join in the last minute, so I'm just going to reintroduce you
Okay.
because I think you deserve that. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Patrice Robinson. She's a super mom, fierce food allergy advocate, and a real force to be reckoned with when it comes to all things advocating for her kids. Patrice has been dealing with peanut allergy in her own family for quite some time now. And Patrice, I'm glad you got your audio issues fixed, and welcome to Ask the Insider.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am so sorry about that. I am not the most technical savvy person for Instagram. However, if you put me on Facebook, I'm good. I'm good. But Instagram, Snapchat, and all these social media platforms is a little bit challenging with. But so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And maybe we'll have to do a Facebook Live or something next time.
Oh,
so
I got you on
you'll
that.
be all over that, right?
Exactly.
All right. So, before we get into the really peanut allergy specifics, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see. So I'm a mom of three, very intelligent, athletic young men. I'm a sports mom for sure. I have a bachelor's in biology with a minor in chemistry, and I have my master's degree in science and people management. So very simple, ordinary, everyday person. I work with toys all day long, so I have the best job in the world on a day-to-day, and I have a clinical background. So that's just a little bit of who I am.
All right. Well, awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how peanut allergies really came into your life? It was quite some time ago, right?
That is correct. So 21 years ago, actually, with the first birth of my son, his dad is anaphylaxis for peanuts. So during our entire dating phase and getting married and all of those things, I lived with, at that point in time, having to make sure that I didn't include peanut in our diet or things that I cooked and things like that, because he is anaphylaxis for peanuts. So actually more than 21 years ago, it was brought into my life because the Lance is allergic to peanuts. So.
Gotcha.
And go ahead, Gary.
No, I was just agreeing. Oh. Yeah, it's been a challenge even before your children were born, right?
It's been a challenge even before the children were born. So of course, at the birth of the children, we decided to hold off on introducing peanuts to the children because of dad's anaphylactic state. And so for the time they were born until 6 years old, we had a peanut-free environment in our home. And then at 6 years old, which is clinically, I believe, the age that they would like to have them tested because of true immunity of sorts. And so we had all the boys tested at 6 years old, and all of them came back positive for the peanut allergy via the skin prick.
Only, when you say all, it's 3 boys, right?
3 boys. Exactly. One soon to be 21, one soon to be 19, and one soon to be 12. So we're talking quite a few years ago, and that positive test came back from the skin prick in the doctor's office.
Gotcha. So, just for everybody out there, right? That was the recommendation back then, 21 years ago when Landon was born, or sorry, when his older brother was born, right? That was a recommendation, right? That if there was a strong history, we didn't do any early feeding. We kept it out of the diet. We know now that's wrong, right? We know that early introduction of peanut can actually help prevent peanut allergy.
That's correct.
So, but that wasn't the case back then. So we've learned a lot since then. Mm-hmm. So go ahead with your story. So all the boys were tested. They had skin testing. It was pretty dramatically positive on the skin test. And at that point, your allergist recommended no one should be anywhere near a peanut.
So all the boys were tested. They came back, as you said, pretty significant with their response. I think 7 millimeters, 4 millimeters to 8 millimeter, they would call that a significant response. And all of the children had that response. So the recommendation was to completely avoid it at all costs, simply because of that response and because dad was anaphylactic. So having the history, even though at the time the physician did say that there was no clinical data that stated that because dad had it, that the children would have it. But because their skin prick came back positive significantly, it was just recommended that we avoid that food category altogether, which is what we did for their entire lives.
Gotcha. So what was that? I mean, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of people on the line that are dealing with food allergies, dealing with peanut allergies, but there also are a significant number that aren't. Can kind of take us through what, you know, daily life is like when you've got that kind of peanut allergy hanging over your heads?
Let's see. So I'm sure I speak for many parents or, you know, caregivers who deal with this type of diagnosis. Life, well, number one, it becomes your norm. I will say that. And life is pretty much dictated by that allergy. So we were very careful not to include the children in environments that would have, you know, any exposure to peanuts. We had to educate on a daily, teachers, camp counselors, wherever the kids were, we had to make sure we educated the people around them that they would have an anaphylactic reaction to peanut if ingested and or, you know, exposed to it. We would have to take 2 EpiPens, one for home, one for wherever they were. We would have to make selective choices in which restaurants we went to for the children. Family members had to make sure that we are always aware of baked goods and things like that that people would cook, you know, with peanuts, added to like frostings and things like that. So it was just a constant living on heightened anxiety.
Sure.
Understanding that if there was ever an exposure, that we would have to make sure that we took life-saving measures to protect the children, you know,
Exactly.
and
And
care.
that was times 3 because all the boys had the diagnosis, right?
That's correct. So that was times 3. However, it made it a little bit more a supportive environment because all 3 of the boys lived the same lifestyle. So, you know, they had the support of each other, you know, when we would go places. But it's nerve-wracking. It's dangerous, if you will, but it did become our norm, and it was something that we were just used to living.
Sure. Tell us a little bit about the epinephrine auto-injectors and what was that like? You
Oh,
mentioned them already, but cost-wise and just...
you know, expensive. Let me just put it just as clear as I can. You know, it's pretty expensive. It's at one point in our lives, it was a fight, you know, if you will, because we would have to contact the insurance companies. And back in the day, you know, they would only do one EpiPen, which is challenging because if I needed it here, but the kids needed to take it to school, then I wouldn't have that life-saving mechanism on me if we were away, you know, on vacation. So it was challenging.
Yeah. And I
Within
mean, and now the recommendation is to have 2 EpiPens wherever you go,
that, it's
right?
so now they
And
twin packs,
yeah,
which is a big deal because now one child, they can take it and I would have one on my person or in my car, or the student, the child that, you know, would be able to have it on their person at school.
sure, sure. So now let's fast forward. We're living life with these 3 boys,
Mm-hmm.
and one of your boys has really started to shine, right, in athletics, especially football. So tell us a little bit about Landon.
All right. So Landon is our middle child, and Landon is a 4-sport athlete and has excelled, you know, extremely well on the football field. And just to fast forward some things, you know, he lived with this anaphylactic situation all of his life, carrying the EpiPen and so forth. And now Landon, you know, at the time was a senior, received 31 offers from various
31 offers.
31
That's pretty
offers
amazing.
from D1 down to JUCO, you know, the span
Yeah,
of colleges. And so very blessed, you know, young man athletically. The one main offer that he did get that just absolutely blew him away was one that he really, really wanted, and was given an opportunity to play football at this institution, I should say. And unfortunately, because he was diagnosed with this um, condition, it inhibited him from being able to accept an offer, you know,
So
from the.
it's an interesting story. I love this story where you know, you're moving forward with acceptance, right? And this is a, I mean, I think we can say it's a military associated academy,
That
right?
is correct.
And then all of a sudden, right, everything is just going along like it should,
It's
and you have a phone call, right? Tell
yeah,
us about that.
it's an offer of you know, his dream, a dream offer for him. And once the Service Academy learned that, you know, I actually got the phone call and I disclosed that, you know, we were dealing with this and how would they deal with it.
How
And
are they going to keep him safe, right?
how are they
How are
going
they going to,
to say?
yeah.
Is what mothers do. You know, we talk, you know, ahead to figure out, okay, all next steps, plans, and so forth. And once that conversation hit the radar, all talks ended. And unfortunately, Landon got the phone call that says, in light of this new information, you know, unfortunately, we can't move forward with your offer. Um,
That
it,
must have been devastating. I can't even imagine.
it was completely devastating. I mean, it was lights out devastating. And when he came to me and it shared with me the conversation that he had, it tore me apart to see him work so hard all those years to achieve what he had achieved, and then to have this dream opportunity to be squashed in a phone call because of his diagnosis. I was devastated for him and extremely hurt. And so, of course, you know, my mind takes off. You know, I'm
I
thinking,
was going to say that and also, you know, having met Landon, neither of you are going to just lay down and take it, right?
no,
You're not going to take no for an
no,
answer.
no, 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 no. No is just a suggestion, you know, until it is vetted and absolutely there's no other opportunity available. No is just a small obstacle, just a small obstacle. So I went into, how can I fix this? What do I need to do? Let's just go back to the allergist. Let's just see what they can do. It had been a long time. I knew that, you know, sometimes people outgrow things. I had heard that before. So I was like, let's just go back to the allergist and let's just see what they can do. And there our journey began to, you know, have Landon retested. Matter of fact, we had all the boys retested, not just Landon, but all the boys. And then our journey started. And
So what was that like? You went back to the allergist, and I was actually the allergist that had seen Landon initially, right?
that
Back,
is
I think,
correct.
when he was a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So you went back there and you started a kind of it was a progression of testing that took place, right? The skin
That.
testing again, the blood testing, but
Mm-hmm.
then the allergist made you aware of a new test, the Thermo Fisher Immunocap component test for peanuts.
That is correct.
And you know, for those of you that are out there, the component peanut test takes a deeper dive, where the skin testing and the regular blood testing really looks at all of the proteins in a peanut. And some people are allergic and sensitized, and some people are sensitized and not allergic, meaning they have a positive test, but they can tolerate peanut. So they looked at these components,
Mm-hmm.
and what did they find, Patrice?
Well, interesting twist of turns. We did the skin prick again, which came back sort of mildly positive this time. And so the physician recommended that we come back in and do the blood testing. And then that came back mildly positive with one of the proteins of the peanut. So I learned a lot. Number one, we learned that there are 150 proteins of the peanut. So, he came back strongly positive in one of those proteins. And then from there, the physician thought, well, okay, let's do this component testing. Let's, like you said, let's dive deeper. Let's figure out which one he is reacting to, because it's possible that he could be reacting, but still could ingest, and it would no longer be an anaphylactic reaction. And
Exactly. So if I can just stop you for a second, the
mm-hmm,
gold standard, right, for a food allergy is doing an oral food challenge.
mm-hmm,
But oral food challenges can be risky, and a lot of allergists don't want to do them if there's a high probability that you're going to fail, because you know you're going to have anaphylaxis that'll need to be treated. So allergists like to be comfortable that based upon your history and the diagnostic testing that you're going to pass that test.
That's correct.
And so Landon had those components evaluated, and the high risk components were negligible or none, correct? The low risk components were there, and they were kind of what was driving that test to be positive.
That is correct.
Okay. So then you proceeded to the food challenge, is that right?
We proceeded to the food challenge and went into the physician's office. We had a 4-hour test where Landon had to, for the first time in his life, taste peanut butter. And so he was nervous. I was nervous. However, we knew from the clinical data that we had that he would not, have the anaphylactic or the systemic reaction to the peanut. So he was excited. So we did the test the first time, no reaction. We waited 30 minutes or so, another test, no reaction. And so at this point, we're like, okay, we're feeling pretty good. Third test, no reaction. So here we are on the 4th hour, and now he has to eat a significant amount of peanut butter. So he ate that, loved it, no reaction. And so as you can imagine, we were on pins and needles. That 4th hour came, and he was able to eat that entire spoon of peanut butter. Changed his life literally that day.
I can't, and besides his, I can't imagine the emotions of the entire family, right?
Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. It changed all of our lives. Number one, it gave Landon the opportunity back that he had once lost, because once the word got out and we were able to present the new data, the decision was changed. So
it's amazing, right? You went from riding high to being low to right back up there again.
They're right back up there, exactly. So, it was amazing. But that test, if it wasn't for that test, we would not be having this conversation. I will tell you that.
And we hear this so often, again, because there are a lot of community allergists out there that are reluctant to do food challenges, for a lot of reasons, but especially because if they're not in an intensive care unit setting, it can be pretty scary to deal with a potential reaction during the food challenge. So knowing going into that challenge that he was at such a low risk, you guys were at ease, the allergist was comfortable that the odds are he was going to pass that challenge, and then he ultimately did. So I mean, an amazing story. And Landon, as I understand it, is continuing to progress in his career, and hopefully will be in college right next year. That's amazing. But what about the other boys? You said you had them tested, right?
So Landon is doing very, very well. Let me report that, where he is excelling. He is living his best life. Something that was a dream of his is definitely coming true for him. And we are 100% supportive and grateful and thankful, for the test. For the other boys, we did the test, the same exact test, and they came back strongly positive and even anaphylactic for the peanut. So
you had the component testing for those, and they showed the high risk proteins.
That is correct.
Gotcha.
That's correct. So they came back with the high risk, and if I can just speak candidly, I think the range was, the highest was 49.9 in the area of systemic response, and they came back 49.9 in the systemic response to the peanut, meaning ingesting it. So this test just basically confirmed for us more conclusively that the other two siblings were anaphylactic, truly anaphylactic for the peanut.
Right. And what it tells us is that they're at super high risk, right? We don't know if they're anaphylactic unless they eat the food, but
Correct.
We're pretty sure based upon these results that we're not going to proceed with a food challenge at this point. No. But then one of the boys actually did have an inadvertent food challenge, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Inadvertently, he did get a hold of a peanut at a donut shop. There was a cross-contamination situation there, and he did ingest, and we did have to take, those life-saving measures. We had to administer his EpiPen. We had to get him to the ER. And the timing of that event was, we dropped Landon off where he needed to be, and we're on our way home, and our oldest got a hold of Peanut. And so on our way,
obviously accidentally,
Accidentally,
and
yeah,
had a true systemic reaction. So the you know, it that is the confirmation, right? That he had high risk proteins in the test. Now he had an inadvertent challenge. He had symptoms that just confirmed this. He truly has a true peanut allergy, and the other son is the same way with a high level. So, you know, speak to that, Patrice. Like, you know, we all want the happy ending, right, of being able to be cleared from the allergy. But what did the testing add to you for the even for the other boys?
the testing for us and for me basically solidified that this is the lifestyle that these other two children will live. They are aware, they have a fail-proof, knowledge now and information that this is how they are created, who they are, and this is the lifestyle that they will live. Um, so it just really put a confirmation on it for us.
Do you have, so, you know, as we're wrapping up here, do you have one takeaway? What would you like to kind of tell everyone out there, you know, about your experience and also about food allergy in general?
Well, there's a couple things I just want, everyone to walk away from knowing, and that is in life, there are several other pricks or tests that people do, and then follow up with a blood test, right? And one of those would be like a person who is pre-diabetic. They do the skin prick, they have this, preliminary test that result that comes back, and then what do? They have to follow up in the doctor's office with with the blood test to determine, what their true glucose levels are. Okay. When, there's a pregnancy test, you have to do the urine pregnancy test. And then what do? You follow up and you have to go to the doctor to have the beta HCG testing done, which is a blood test to determine, for sure whether or not, mom is with child or not. So there are several tests that are preliminary via prick or whatever, that needs to be followed up with more advanced testing. And I just feel like it makes sense that if you have a positive skin test to any type of food allergy, that it should be a normal process that you would follow up with the blood test to determine, to rule out, to have a confirmation, to know for sure, that this is the life that I will live. And it's not on a guess. It's not on a maybe. It's not on a my dad had it, so I must have it. It is a confirmation. So I want people to walk away knowing that to have that confirmation is peace of mind. It changes your life. It really changes your life. And so, I know other families who are dealing with this as well, who are super moms and super dads, who deal with kids who have allergies, like my kids have allergies. And I just wanted to call their names real quick. I'll just say last name. So, my sister, whose last name is Walls, and there's a family, there's a Jordan family, and there's a Davis family, and there's the Lewandowski family. All of these families deal with what I did and, have come to me and, will have this advanced testing. So I just want the world, the people who are listening, to walk away knowing that it's worth it. It's worth it.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We're grateful that we were able to help you kind of share this with everyone, really helping to empower families to get to that right diagnosis, right? Not to take an initial diagnosis that hasn't been confirmed and, and stay with it, right? Keep pushing and sometimes that diagnosis is, like your other two boys, it confirms the allergy, but sometimes it allows us to really be free of the allergy as well. So, I want to thank you so much for sharing that story. For everyone else out there, your stories can help shape and empower the food allergy community as well in ways that we can't begin to explain. That's why we want to hear from you to really, share your experiences and help others. So if you'd like to do that, click the link on our bio, and you'll have a chance to share your personal allergy stories on Allergy Insider. If you don't already, please follow us on Instagram, like our Facebook page for more information from Allergy Insider. Allergy Insider is your go-to medically backed resource for all things allergy. Also, remember, stay tuned for our next Ask the Insider Instagram Live episode. With that, it looks like we may have some questions. So let's do that, and then we'll conclude. So Some of these questions are long. Give me a second here, Patrice, to read them, and we'll see. So I think that, you know, people are asking, how can they get this test? And it's been answered a little bit in the comments, but it's important that you need to talk to your healthcare provider, right? And you know, as a healthcare provider, we often talk about something called shared decision making. So, you know, being empowered to know that there is testing out there, there's advanced testing. You know, some healthcare providers, believe it or not, are still not aware of it. So, you know, having that conversation with your healthcare provider, and also if you've got food allergy, once you've had that discussion and testing with your primary care provider, it's really incumbent to find a food allergy specialist, so an allergist that really specializes in food allergy to help you get the testing you need and potentially get that oral food challenge to, you know, to confirm or not the allergy. Let me see if there's any other questions coming in. So someone asked for me to, if I could break down the testing into 4 steps. And I think, you know, what's critical, and this is outside in allergy, in medicine in general, it's all about the patient first, right? So we have to do a really good history. So, you know, as a clinician, I want to know everything around that potential reaction that you had for food. Once we understand, you know, what you were doing, what you ingested, what your symptoms were, what all the circumstances were, then we do a test. And as you indicated, Patrice, sometimes that's a skin test. Sometimes that's what we call a whole extract blood test, a standard allergy blood test. And we look at those results. And if they're negative, that really leads us to believe that we may be able to kind of clear you of your allergy, right? If we need to give an oral food challenge to prove it. But if they're positive, that's what we're talking about when we sometimes need to take a deeper dive. And for certain foods like peanut, like milk, like egg, like tree nuts, we can look at those individual allergen components and look at and kind of let them risk stratify for us. So, you know, just as in Landon's case, he had a very low risk profile. So you moved on to do, you know, to do the food challenge. In his brother's case, you know, both brothers had a high risk profile, kind of confirmed that we didn't want to do anything more and they needed to keep their diagnosis, keep their epinephrine auto-injectors, et cetera. Looks like, let's see if there's any other questions here. So there's a question about insurance coverage and gosh, Patrice, I know you dealt in this space for quite a while. Insurance coverage is about as unique as our fingerprints, right? So I think generally this testing is very well covered, but everybody's circumstances are different. You know, deductibles, high deductible plans. So I always good to have a conversation with your insurance company to see where you are in your deductible or what the coverage is. But in general, Medicare, Medicaid, commercial insurances all do cover this pretty well. Let me see if there's any other questions. So I think that's it. We've had a lot of people commenting. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Patrice, this is an amazing conversation, you guys. I can't wait to just, you know, I'm following you on Facebook because that's your platform,
that's
right?
Platform.
I can't wait to see where things go for Landon in the future. I'm hoping when he makes the pros that I get an invite. I'm going to be pushing for it, me along with a lot of other people, right?
Right.
But thank you again for you know, a great conversation today. Send my best to Landon. I'm sure we'll see him soon. I did see he joined, so he must have got a few free minutes, and I did see him come across. But thanks again, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Gary. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.